Penn State swung and missed on a head coach again. And man, I don't envy what's going on in Happy Valley. You guys are going through it.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in. It is a Locked On College crossover of Nittany Lions and Hoosiers. I'm Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. He is Zach Seyko of Locked On Nittany Lions. Thank you so much for being here and making us your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is now the #1 sports podcasting network. So thank you so much for making that. So today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Well, later on, we're going to talk about the Big Ten championship game between Indiana and Ohio State, #1 versus #2. Plus, we'll make all of our picks across the college football championship games because there are some interesting ones, big and maybe not so big. But Seyko, I got to turn it to you, my friend. Are you okay? Are you sleeping over there? The unhappy Valley jokes have long been gone at this point because Penn State is still without a head coach. The recruiting class is in the dumpster. I mean, are you okay covering Penn State right now?
Well, thanks for the friendly reminder, right? About how everything's just going swimmingly. I've never been busier. I'm constantly I'm trying to keep up. Everything changes. Here's the thing, though. As we sit here and record this show, people better follow up with the next show because information's going to be completely different or completely brand new, depending on what direction that Penn State goes in. So, at the latest update, Brian Daboll and Terry Smith are the leading candidates. At least that's how it looked. But then, hey, Penn State doesn't have to rush this anymore. It was different when National Signing Day, you want to have a coach in place, see if you can get some of their recruits from their respective class. That's why Kalani Sitake or anybody that was a sitting head coach in college football, you want to try to get them because then you just carry over their recruiting class like James Franklin did over at Virginia Tech, right? Great move. Yeah. Hindsight's 2020, right? Yeah. No, I digress from that. I still agree with the Franklin firing. What I don't agree is the hiring replacement process, okay? So Brian Daboll, the ex-New York Giants head coach, and Terry Smith, the interim head coach, are the supposed leaders. But Penn State is opening this back up to start over in a sense. So are they going to go after? Yeah, start over. Are they going to go after Iowa State's Matt Campbell? Wow. Are they going to go after Manny Diaz, who was a former Penn State defensive coordinator, now the head coach at Duke? I've heard if you look, see, there are national reporters like Tim Brando, for example, over at CBS, alluding to the fact that, hey, things still aren't comfortable in Tuscaloosa with Kalen DeBoer in Alabama. Is Penn State trying to wait that out after championship weekend? Here we go again, right? I was given a piece of advice. Believe nothing and consider everything. So let's consider everything here. Here's what I will say. Penn State can start over because they got nothing to lose at this point. You missed out on all your big name candidates, the elite of elite names, Marcus Freeman, Mike Elko, just name them all. Kurt Signetti, right, over at Indiana.
You're welcome.
But yeah, it's you're welcome, actually, Kurt Signetti.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
But then Penn State, it was also a double-ended sword because they missed out on the candidates that still had high upside. But they were so preoccupied with the candidates that were more than likely not to leave that they missed the ones that would be genuinely interested. Brian Hartline, offensive coordinator at Ohio State, now at South Florida. Will Stein, offensive coordinator at Oregon, now at Kentucky. So he's an SEC caliber head coach, right? Someone like Bob Chesney, who has Pennsylvania connections, is going to be in the Big Ten, not at Penn State, but UCLA, right? Still got to get used to the conference realignment. But that's what I mean.
Kinda, yeah.
But that's what I mean. Penn State was swinging for the fences, at the same time missed all the doubles and triples that could have turned into inside the park home runs if you were willing to wait through the rocky seasons right out of the gate with Hartline, Stein, or Chesney, because I think they have tons of upside and potential. So here we are, Brian Daboll, Terry Smith, potentially Matt Campbell, Manny Diaz, and we'll see how it goes from there.
But with some of those guys that you were just mentioning, who if you were patient and waited a little bit, you could have gotten, because I thought Brian Hartline, I said this early on in all of these coaching searches, he was the guy at the top of my list. I thought a P4 job was just waiting for him after this season. I still think the South Florida job is a good job for him and a good starting point. And I don't think he's going to be there very long. I think he'll win. I think he'll then take a P4 job. But my question to you, Zach, is, why didn't Penn State go after those guys initially? I understand the idea of going after a Kurt Signetti or a Mike Elko or a Lane Kiffin or whatever the case may be, but why not go after those guys already or at the forefront and be out in front of everybody else? And then the second part to that is Penn State, have they just been told no so many times, or are people worried about going to Penn State? Why is there still no coach in place? Why has nobody said yes, basically?
Like I said, Penn State did this to themselves. Pat Kraft, the athletic director, did this to himself. He was so preoccupied. I got to get a sitting head coach. I got to get a guy with head coaching experience. I can't take a first-time head coach. I can't promote a coordinator at my program. Jacob, let me point out that the top 4 programs, and I'm not saying this is any disrespect to Indiana right now, in terms of everything, recruiting, recent results, notoriety, right, the recognition, the overall brand value right now. The top 4 programs in college football all have first-time head coaches. Ohio State and Ryan Day. Yes, Ohio State took a first-time head coach after Urban Meyer. Kirby Smart at Georgia, first-time head coach. Dan Lanning at Oregon, first-time head coach. And Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, first-time head coach. Those are the top, objectively, those are the 4 powerhouses right now in all of college football that have just the best brand recognition. That's where recruits want to play. That's who all the public, they can't stop talking about them. And then the on-the-field results speak for themselves. All first-time head coaches. So why is Penn State too good for Brian Hartline? I would consider Bob Chesney in that category as well, since he doesn't have any Power 4 experience. Will Stein. Well, Will Stein, it's been reported that Penn State said he was too raw. Are you kidding me?
Yikes.
So this is why you're here. Because you thought you were too good for tier 2 and tier 3, and tier 1 all told you no.
Yeah, and all these guys signing extensions, right? I mean, with Drinkwitz, I know that was another one, right? Signetti, obviously, but just so many names have been floating around, and then it seems like it's every day right now. Slow down a little bit here as we get towards the end of this week and towards conference championship week. Of course, National Signing Day come and gone, but it just seems like, man, every day there were new coaches going to new places, and Penn State was not on those lists, brother. I know you know it better than anybody. It's just baffling to me that they were so quick to finally pull the trigger on James Franklin and apparently just had no backup plan. And if they did, they just got shot down again and again and again. Eventually, you just quit asking girls to go to the prom and you just go by yourself or go hang out with your mom or something like that. But that's not really an option in this scenario. You got to have a head coach. And so we'll see if Penn State does get somebody from the outside, if Terry Smith is promoted and takes that interim tag off. Either way, this has been a disaster for Penn State, I think it's fair to say.
They can still land on their feet, right? I think there's upside with Daboll. I think Terry Smith should not be considered a lackluster candidate. Him knowing and understanding the intricacies of Penn State is very valuable. And a guy that's not motivated by dollars and cents. Okay, he is going to fight for Penn State no matter what. I do like that. And again, I think Matt Campbell is still a really good coach, but he's never been linked to this job that frequently. So is his name going to emerge? Probably at this point in time, if Penn State intends to start its coaching search over, so to speak.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens with Penn State as they are still in search of their next head coach. But two teams that are not looking for head coaches, Ohio State and Indiana, Ryan Day and Kurt Signetti. They are preparing for the Big Ten championship game this Saturday in Indianapolis. We talk about that coming up next on this Locked On Crossover.
And this episode is brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every single time. It's not just something you wrap up. It's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure it out. No setup headaches, just instant smiles. Grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos, this is the perfect gift for. Endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app. You can add personalized messages right inside the frame, so the gift feels thoughtful the moment it's open. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's promo code COLLEGE at checkout over at auraframes.com. Promo code COLLEGE. The deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get them in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
It's the big bad Ohio State Buckeyes, and it's my Indiana Hoosiers, Zach, who are there for the very first time. This is going to be a fun game, regardless if you cheer for the Hoosiers or the Buckeyes or not, and it's the #1 and #2 teams in college football. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, prime time. I was at the Big Ten. How much has changed, right? I was present in person, got to do a show from the football field. It was after a loss, but at Lucas Oil Stadium. So this game is going to be everything it's expecting to be, is what I'm trying to get at. Whether it's Ohio State, whether it's formerly Penn State and Oregon the year before, Ohio State and Indiana. I mean, this is great to see Curt Signetti and this Indiana football team continue to rise, right? This was a program that was just, hey, they're going to be an afterthought in the Big Ten. But no, you make a splash higher, which is exactly what Penn State's going for. They see that, hey, Indiana, if they change coaches, look what can happen in such a short amount of time.
Yes.
You're literally in the Big Ten championship. I mean, this is a major, even if the Hoosiers come up short, they got into the Big Ten championship. People recognize them as a legitimate football team. Like, there's brand power with all of this. And you're going to be in the college football playoff, and no shorter than a home football game. You can either get the bye or a home football game there. And we'll see, right? Indiana still might be in the top 4, even with a loss to Ohio State. So this has just been a phenomenal season. And I like the way that you'll clear me up on the health report, but I do like the way, if Indiana is healthy across the board, I like the way they match up with Ohio State.
Yeah, well, that's something that is important here for Indiana and Ohio State. We're trying to figure out, and they very well could be game time decisions on, funny enough, it's the receiver position for both teams, right? We saw Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate play for Ohio State against Michigan. We saw Elijah Surratt, Indiana's #1 receiver, play against Purdue last week. They all looked pretty good. Everybody looked pretty healthy, but those were also games that weren't particularly close when the final buzzer sounded. And so how much will those guys play? How much effort will they give? I'm not saying that they won't give effort, but in terms of in a game that is important, but doesn't matter on the grand scheme of things, right? How much will they put into this? We'll see how that goes. But yeah, for Indiana, the latest is that everybody's healthy. Everybody's good to go. It's taken a while, defensively especially. You had to get healthy on the defensive line. You had a couple secondary guys get banged up. Aiden Fisher, your All-American linebacker, was struggling through some injuries, but he's been back in the fold the last couple of games. And so, no, I think for Indiana, health should not be a concern. You feel good about Fernando Mendoza. You feel good about your receivers. O-line has been questionable, but for the most part, you're good to go there. Running backs are good. And so I don't see health being an issue, at least going into this game for either teams. Now, obviously, injuries happen, and you can't do anything about it but adjust and go to the next guy up. But I think both teams will be at full strength, at least as much as they can be in the middle of December for college football, which should lead to a really fun matchup where the betting line has moved between 4 and 6 points basically all week, Zach, and that seems to be about right. I mean, if Ohio State wins, you expect it to be right around 6 or 7 points. If Indiana wins, it'll be close, I think, and I like Indiana to win this game. We'll talk more about it later, but I think Indiana has every chance to win this game, and you are a team that has seen both Indiana and Ohio State, so maybe a little insight on your prediction for the Big Ten championship game.
Obviously, I've seen a better Ohio State performance than Indiana, right? And
Yeah.
especially up close and personal. Penn State had them on the ropes. That
Yep.
was a scary situation. You and I were going back and forth in the middle of the game, but ultimately Indiana prevailed because they were the better team. But they're also that's what playoff teams do is they win in those kinds of moments, even with an
Mhm.
upset hungry type of Penn State team that's looking to rally and just looking to fight for the sake of fighting. So I commend that, and that's a road game too. That one's at Beaver Stadium. That one was in Columbus.
Yep.
So I what I liked about Ohio State is I do think they've kind of held back another gear, and that was similar to last season, where as the 8th seed, they just look like a completely different ball team.
Yeah.
They just ascended to another level. And if I'm Indiana, that's my concern is that Ohio State was holding back. They were working on some things. They were saving some plays, or just for the sake of it. Julian Sayin still a first-time starting quarterback. Bo Jackson, the running back. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. All those guys are still relatively young football players. They're only going to get better. Same thing with the defense. They're mostly first-time starters. So this is when they're going to be peaking. You haven't seen the best of Ohio State just yet. And the Michigan game was kind of telling because I thought that you and I kind of agreed that, hey, we think this one's going to be close. It's a mental thing. No, Ohio State just got everything going. The ground game, whatever they needed, it
Yeah.
worked. That was a dominant victory. But I still like the way that Indiana matches up. Coaching is going to be huge. I think this is the best team that Ohio State has faced all season, and it's not close. Even with Texas starting to find some rhythm later on in the season here. Ohio State playing against Indiana, that's the best competition they're going to face, the best ground game, best opposing quarterback, best wide receiver core. And I hope I'm not missing anybody that they played over the schedule there. But it objectively, Indiana checks so many boxes that Ohio State hasn't seen this season. And I think that's what Indiana has going for them.
But funny enough, right, that kind of plays into Indiana's favor too, because or I guess even more so, because Indiana has played tough games. The road game at Iowa was tough.
Mm-hmm.
I know Iowa and Ohio State are not on the same caliber, but that's a tough road game. That was a tough environment.
Yes.
Indiana did not play well, and they found a way to win. You go on the road to Eugene, to the third ranked team in the country, and beat the Ducks by 10. That's a tough game. You go on the road to Happy Valley and take on a talented Penn State team. Did not play well, and you still pull off the win. I think those things, Zach, give Indiana an advantage in this game that Ohio State doesn't have. But
Battle
they also,
tested.
yeah, you're battle tested, at least in this season. But
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Day and Ohio State as a program are battle tested over several years. But how much of that bleeds into what's going to happen inside of Lucas Oil Stadium on Saturday night, I don't know. But when you start talking matchups and things, and look, you've got 2 of the 3 betting favorites for the Heisman Trophy going at it at quarterback.
All
Could
at
you
once.
ask for anything else?
Yeah.
Could you ask for anything better with Fernando Mendoza, the betting favorite on one side, and Julian Sayin, who's right there behind him on the other side? 2 of the best quarterbacks in the nation, 2 of the best teams in the nation, in a game that is important, but doesn't have the oomph that it normally does or would have in the past because of expanded college football playoff.
Yeah.
But I think Indiana's going to give it everything they've got. This is the Hoosiers' first time ever being here in the Big Ten championship game. Just another night for Ohio State. Do they act that way, or do they give it everything they've got? Because I think Kurt Signetti will. I think Indiana will, and they will play and be right there with the Buckeyes the entire time. And I know we're going to make predictions on these games coming up in our final segment of today's show, but people don't need to write this Indiana team off. And for the first time this season, I don't feel like they are. I think most people are picking Ohio State, but I don't see a ton of people, Zach, and maybe you've seen differently, saying, Ohio State by 40. Do you see what happened last year? Yeah, Ohio State by 50. Indiana's terrible. Indiana's bad. That's Indiana. Get over yourself. I haven't seen as much of that this year, and I think that's because people respect IU.
For me, it's going to be dependent on one matchup, and it's limiting Ohio State's passing attack. It's efficient as anything. Julian Sayin's completing nearly 80% of his passes.
Yep.
He's only been sacked 6 times this season. For Ohio State, I still want to see the run game evolve, but if you contain the passing attack, and Ohio State does have to turn to a ground attack that I'm still not overly confident in, right? That's one of the position groups where I say Ohio State, hey, maybe this might be their best version of football here as we get into the later part of the season. It's because Ohio State's ground game has not been tested. And they also haven't, even against Michigan, right? They can't throw the football. So you can sell out for the run. What happens when you faced a balanced team that can mix it up? Okay. So Indiana, by proxy, is going to have a much better ground game because they can beat you through the air. So this is why this game is give or take a 4 point. Maybe it gets to that key number 3.5. I'm eager to see that, but Indiana should not be an afterthought in this game. This will be a 1-score game no matter what.
It's the Hoosiers and the Buckeyes in the Big Ten Championship game coming up on Saturday night in downtown Indianapolis. It should be one of the all-time greatest games that we've ever seen, and it's one of the biggest games that Indiana has ever played in as well. It is Champ Week across college football with all sorts of championship games going on. Starting on Friday, there's some we'll go a little bit deeper on, some maybe not so much. We'll talk about that coming up next on this Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and Nittany Lions. Today's episode on this Locked On crossover is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And we will probably see a lot of those in the Big Ten Championship game this weekend, where Indiana is a 4.5-point underdog as of right now to the Ohio State Buckeyes. How much will that move by the time game time gets here? We will see. But then during the game, if Indiana scores first, if Ohio State scores first, if somebody goes up by double digits or there's a turnover, those are all the things you can get involved with using FanDuel. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, when that receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. That is what makes it so much fun. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season and on Saturday for the Big Ten Championship game, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. We start with the Sun Belt Championship. You've got the Troy, 8-4 Troy, heading to take on 25th ranked James Madison. Yes, that's right. 25th ranked James Madison, the Troy Trojans, and James Madison, who may be losing their head coach again to another P4 team. James Madison favored by almost 24 points.
Yeah, this is a game where I expect James Madison, as a parting gift to Bob Chesney, will fight for this team. Now, don't overlook Troy just because they're 8-4, but this is a hefty spread for a reason. This one's also a home game. These other championship games aren't at neutral sites. So James Madison, everything going for them. They look, and they're fighting, right? They have an opportunity to get into the college football playoff.
Yes.
With that being said, though, there are times where the other team can just say, hey, we're going to be a bull in the china shop. We're just going to mess things up. You got a lot to lose. We got nothing to lose. So I see James Madison winning, but with what's on the line, again, there's more for them to lose. So they're going to be a little cautious. It's going to be a little tense because you are losing your head coach, right? This is kind of your final battle. Troy can just go in, do whatever it wants without any repercussions. Give me Troy to cover, but James Madison to win because they are that much better.
Yeah, I like Troy to cover as well, but James Madison to win. It's going to be cold. It's going to be below freezing, and Troy is down in Alabama for people that don't know that. And so it's going to be cold weather, man, and James Madison will be prepared. That's a James Madison team that their one loss this season was by 2 scores to an 8-4 Louisville team. So James Madison's pretty good as a football team. So
I wish I had their coach.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Hey, I would say I have one to borrow, but I don't because we're paying him a lot of money not to leave. So, yeah, I like James Madison. I like them to win, but I'll take Troy to cover. We'll pick this one quickly. The spread is close. Kennesaw State and Jacksonville State, the Conference USA Championship game. Kennesaw State, hootie hoo, favored by 2.5, but they're on the road down in Jacksonville, Alabama.
Give me Kennesaw State. I like what I've seen from this team from afar, and it's really for here. It's the vibes. This is a team that's firing on all cylinders. You should actually be able to scout this game pretty well because they played Indiana early in the season. So your prediction's probably going to be better than mine, but unless we agree here, I think Kennesaw State could potentially maybe win this game by more than just a field goal, maybe a touchdown, maybe even 2 touchdowns. I like the way this team operates.
Yeah, Kennesaw State, that was the second game of the season, and they were having some quarterback issues, some injury issues, and
Mhm.
that game did not go well. 56-9 was that score when they came to Bloomington. But here's what's funny is Kennesaw State went to Jacksonville State already this
They
season in the
did.
regular season and lost
They
by
did.
9. I like Kennesaw State to turn it around and give them a little revenge in the game that matters most. Give me Kennesaw State to win and give me Kennesaw State to cover against Jacksonville State. Let's head to the American Championship game. Again, as we're picking all the college football conference championship games, working our way to the big P4 games. And look, some people hear the American Championship and say, come on, guys, are we really talking about that? How about this? It's a top 25 game. We got a top 25 matchup going on in the American Championship with 24th ranked North Texas and 20th ranked Tulane, two more programs whose coaches are leaving. And so
Yeah.
they are going to be shells of themselves come next season, but this one should be a really, really good game where North Texas is favored by almost a field goal, Zach.
North Texas is a pass-happy team, and I kind of wanted Mike Morris as an offensive coordinator, maybe a risky head coaching hire for Penn State. I like what I've seen. The guy's developed. He was part of the development of Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. He understands how to get the most out of his quarterbacks. But if there's inclement weather with this one being in Tulane, there's potentially some rain in the forecast. I like John Summerall and Tulane if that's going to be the case, because if North Texas, they are an offensive team. If they can't throw the football, they're not going to win.
Yeah, and Summerall is coaching this Tulane team in the American Championship game if they make the college football playoff. He just took the job at Florida, of course, but he is coaching Tulane. I like them. I like him to be focused enough. It will not be pretty, but I like Tulane to get it done and pull off the technical betting upset there. Quickly here, the Mountain West Championship. All these games on Friday, by the way, so a ton going on Friday night. How about Boise State hosting the Mountain West Championship game with a 10-win UNLV team? That's right. UNLV is a 10-win football team with wins over UCLA, Air Force, Utah State, Nevada. I mean, that's a solid team that's rolling into Boise, Idaho. I'll make it quick, though. I like Boise State to get it done. I just think they're more physical. I think they got more superpower. I like Boise State to get it done at home.
If there's any inclement weather here, same thing. UNLV is not a pass happy team, but this is a team that is plays in Las Vegas, at Allegiant Stadium indoors, going up to Boise, Idaho. All the home field advantage you could ask for. Give me Boise State to win this game comfortably, like they did the last time.
Let's move on to the games on Saturday, and you have some insight on this one, I think, Mr. Seyko, in the Big 12 championship game. Maybe not insight, but at least an opinion on BYU and Texas Tech. Red Raiders favored by double digits here, 12.5 as we make this recording in the early game of the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, BYU is probably going to be all fired up since Satake is going to stay with them, and it seems to be so. There's going to be a motivational factor here. They also have more to play for in the sense that they get into the playoff. It's not a guarantee if they lose. So I just like the motivational factor and the feel good story of your coach entertained some jobs and he ended up returning and staying home to Penn State's demise. But give me BYU to at the very least cover with if any team's going to upset anybody this weekend, I'm picking BYU.
Yeah, I like that BYU team and the video that they put out when Satake came out to the team after practice and said, hey, I know it's been in the news. I know we talked about it, but I'm not going anywhere. And they all just went crazy. That was really cool to see. I know Penn State fans probably weren't happy about it, but I thought it was cool from a college football perspective. And so given all that, the story is cute, but Texas Tech is legit. They are ranked fourth for a reason. They are a hard-hitting football team. And, man, when they get the offense rolling, nobody can stop them. They've put up 40 or more points in 4 of their last 5 games. I think they could do it again here in this one. Give me Texas Tech to win. I'm not taking them to cover a double-digit spread, but I like them to win and win going away. No disrespect to the MAC, but we do have to hustle here, so we'll jump over that one and keep it in the P4. Let's jump down to the ACC championship game quickly. Duke and Virginia, probably the least exciting of the P4 conference championship games, and maybe even below some other games as well. I'll take Virginia, but I don't feel good about it.
That's interesting because I think this spread being 3.5, give or take, a field goal spread is interesting. Duke's 7-5.
Yeah.
What are the odds makers know that we don't? Virginia has won every game you asked it to. But Duke probably again coming in upset minded, not a lot not a lot on the line for them. But Virginia, college football playoff appearance, right? Give me Virginia to win. But like you said, I don't feel good about it, even though they beat Duke pretty handedly the first time around. It's just different when you got nothing on the line, so you can just try to go bully them because there's no consequences. So Duke could upset them here.
Okay, we'll see what happens. That's the late game. That one happening at the exact same time as the Big Ten championship game. We'll get to that one in just a moment. SEC championship happening in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. 3rd ranked Georgia, 9th ranked Alabama. Both teams have a lot to play for, but both teams also have a lot to lose as well, which has been a big discussion on my show in particular. Some people aren't happy about that idea, but I think it's legitimate. If Georgia loses, they could fall out of the top 4. If Alabama loses, they could fall out of the college football playoff. Zach, who do you have? Georgia favored by almost a field goal.
I'll tell you who I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for Georgia, and I'm rooting for Georgia to blow out the Crimson Tide. I hope that Kalen DeBoer and Alabama do not show up at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So this is, but objectively speaking, Alabama, they beat them again. It seems like Kalen DeBoer just has upside over Kirby Smart when these two teams meet. But I got to imagine that at some point Kirby Smart is going to, kind of right the wrongs of those previous meetings. Give me Georgia in this game, in a close one, though. And we'll see. If everyone's saying things aren't great in Tuscaloosa, maybe Alabama's distracted in this game against a better team. Not just Auburn this time, even though it's a rivalry game, an actual competent team.
A wishful pick by Mr. Zach Seyko taking the Georgia Bulldogs. I am going the other way. I'm going to go with Alabama because while Georgia is very good, Kirby Smart is the better coach. Georgia has been playing with fire all season long with slow starts and then picking it up and coming back in the second half. And I think Alabama feeds off that Iron Bowl win last week. I think they come in guns a-blazing. And I think Alabama, they've beaten Georgia before, but it hasn't happened often. I think they do it here. I think Alabama rolls. Give me Alabama to take down Georgia in the SEC championship game. And then we get to the biggest one of them all. It's number 1 Ohio State and number 2 Indiana in the Big Ten championship game on Saturday night in Lucas Oil Stadium. We talked a lot about it earlier, so we'll make our picks here quickly, Zach. I think Indiana gets it done. I like 31-28. That's the score I've had in my head all week. That's the one I've stuck with all week long, and I'm not changing it now. I think Indiana forces a couple of turnovers. I think they convert on those turnovers, and I think they're able to slow down the Ohio State offense and not get beat deep very often, and I think they're able to get the biggest win in program history, and I think they take down the Buckeyes 31-28 on Saturday night in the Big Ten championship game.
Home field advantage, right?
I hope
in this case.
I hope so.
So that's why I say that number is going to be key, because I do think this is a field goal game one way or another. Ohio State, I do think there is another gear to them, and I wonder if we're going to see that this weekend. So I am going to go Ohio State to win, but until that number gets to 3.5 or whatever, it's a field goal game in my mind. Give me something 27-24. Ohio State wins.
There's a lot of storylines and a lot of news going on around the Big Ten, college football, and a whole lot more. And both of us have you covered on this weekly show, talking all things Big Ten. And, of course, on our daily shows as Zach Seyko, he talks all things Penn State on Locked On Nittany Lions. I'm Jacob Goins, talking all things Indiana with Locked On Hoosiers. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channels. Follow us on your audio podcasting platforms as we post daily episodes for you Monday through Friday, breaking news episodes, live episodes, you name it, we got it. There's a reason we're a part of the #1 podcast network. It's because we bring you the most coverage than anybody. So be sure you do those things, and we are back for normal episodes on our channels the next time. So to Nittany Lion and Hoosier fans, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.